So I want you to imagine a story that's designed on purpose to be boring. A place where absolutely nothing happens, filled with people who do nothing interesting. And yet, this story has become a cult favorite for thousands of people who are just looking for a little bit of calm. How does something so intentionally dull become so deeply satisfying, especially in our crazy, non-stop world?
This line right here, it just nails the whole vibe of the hotel. It's not exciting, it's not awful, it's just fine. And in that simple, gentle reassurance, we find the real heart of its appeal. It's a promise that everything is stable, everything is okay in a world that often feels chaotic. And that's a feeling a lot of us are searching for.
So that's the big puzzle, isn't it? We're taught that stories need conflict, they need drama. This one throws all of that out the window. So let's dive in and really pick apart the literary tricks that make this incredibly mundane world so unbelievably comforting.
All right, first things first, the setting. The author builds what's basically a fortress of predictability. In this first part, we're going to see exactly how that unchanging, meticulous routine creates this profound sense of safety for anyone who enters. Think about it. The windows are all the exact same size. The curtains are just a neutral color. The automatic doors, they open just a little bit too slowly every single time. Now, these aren't just random details. They are promises. They're telling you, hey, nothing here is going to startle you. You can let your guard down.
And this is a perfect example of how they do it. The writing itself is super literal. The sign isn't described as charming or weather-beaten. It just does its job. By stripping away any kind of ambiguity, the story removes any mental work for you. It's just easy.
And get this, the people who work here, they aren't characters with messy, complex lives. They're more like functions of the hotel itself. Kenneth exists to nod politely. Angela is there for peak efficiency. Their so-called boring traits are their entire identity, which makes them as reliable and predictable as the building itself. So check out this timeline. The morning unfolds not just as a series of events, but like this perfectly synchronized clockwork ballet of the mundane. The precision of the times, down to the minute, just reinforces that this is a world governed by unbreakable rules. Even the squeak of a trolley wheel is a predictable, comforting part of the whole system. Okay, so we've got our super predictable stage set. Now let's look at the actors, the guests. You'll see they are just as predictable as the staff, but their tiny, repeated actions actually paint these surprisingly vivid and very quiet portraits of who they are. So our first case study is Mr. Ellis. We don't learn about his job, his family, none of that. His entire presence, his whole character, is communicated through one simple, repeated morning ritual. I love how this is described, with the kind of focus usually reserved for major life events. It's kind of funny, right? The author is winking at us, letting us know that in this little world, the smallest, most ordinary actions are the major life events. That's where the meaning is. This is basically a 3-act play in Toast. The ritual tells us everything we need to know about him. He's a man of habit, of precision, of quiet contemplation. There's no drama, no conflict, only the pure comfort of a perfectly executed, repeatable process. And we see this silent storytelling everywhere. Check out these two couples. They're drawn with almost no dialogue. The Finches, they operate with this practiced, silent efficiency. The young couple, they're more hesitant, more collaborative. We learn everything about their dynamic just by watching them navigate cereal and jam. And this technique is used over and over. Each character gets defined by a single, observable, repeated quirk. The businessman who's satisfied with a blank page. The lady who seems to be comforting her handbag. These are these tiny, self-contained stories that populate the world without ever threatening its calm. So you might be asking yourself, how does a story with no plot even end? Well, it doesn't build to a climax. It actually does the complete opposite. It de-escalates. The narrative just slows down, mirroring the rhythm of a day coming to a close and fulfilling its purpose as a truly calming experience. This line right here, this is the signal for the final act. If the morning was about the quiet hum of routine, the evening is about that routine falling completely silent. The story is literally celebrating the moment when even the minimal action of the day finally just stops. So the day ends exactly as it began, with rituals. Kenneth walks the empty corridors, just confirming the absence of trouble. Christy washes the very last pan. You see televisions glowing faintly behind closed doors. Each action is another gentle step towards total stillness.
And the ending? It's not a bang, not a twist, but the softest of clicks. Kenneth's departure hands the hotel over to Martin, the night manager, the guy whose entire purpose is to preside over nothing happening. It's the perfect, peaceful, quiet resolution.
All right, so let's pull all of this together. What have we learned from our little trip to the most boring hotel in the world? Why does this whole approach work so well for creating genuine psychological comfort? Well, it really boils down to these core ideas. All that repetition creates a rhythm that's kind of like a lullaby. The intense focus on tiny micro details makes this boring world feel incredibly real. And by getting rid of any surprise or conflict, the story creates a truly safe space for your mind to just be. And this is not lazy writing, not at all. This is a sophisticated and deliberate craft. You know, a story like this works because it's an antidote to our hyper-stimulated world. It reminds us that there's real restorative power in the quiet, in the predictable. So the final question is for you, what's your version of that toast ritual? What's the simple, maybe even boring, predictable thing in your life that brings you a moment of calm?